parti avec du train. Où est-ce que j'en étais? Alors, attends. Je reprends. Mon voyage en Floride. Je fais reprendre. Et ça charge.
It was 1998, years before podcasts were a thing. Our studio was my parents' living room. We recorded our radio program over a few years, using a cassette player with a mic. Our audience was small, just us. Our focus was constant, the Beatles.
Now, today there's something sad we need to tell you. About George Harrison.
We reported on the latest news, including when an intruder attacked George Harrison and his wife in 1999, nearly killing them.
It was December 30th.
Ouais, j'étais en train d'augmenter en vitesse.
Most of the program, though, was us singing.
Il peut plus. C'est cool.
Maybe you can hear my accent.
Il peut plus.
And I didn't know all the words I was saying. Back in
J'augmente en vitesse du
Argentina,
coup.
I sing along with the Beatles by making up words or mimicking their pronunciation. But when my parents moved me and my brothers
Putain,
to
j'avais de la
Texas,
pluie et là
I
j'en ai
was
plus.
constantly surrounded by English. The only thing that seemed to exist both in Argentina and the US were 4 mop tops from Liverpool.
70.
Surprise for you. What is it? It's a song from the Beatles. What is it called, the song? It's called Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
75.
The Beatles have always felt like home, but there's never been a place that I felt a part of. I always introduce myself as Argentine.
Et voilà, on y est. 79. Faut bien faire gaffe au feu. Si je peux passer ou pas. Si je peux pas passer, je suis dans la merde.
There's always some small cultural difference, or the fact that I eat dinner at 10 p.m. But I'm not alone in
C'est
feeling this
rouge ou
way.
c'est pas rouge? J'arrive pas à le voir.
I called up
J'ai
my
l'impression que
brothers,
c'est rouge.
Santiago and Emiliano, or Santi and Emi. They're twins and were 6 years old when we moved
C'est rouge.
to Texas. Now they're 28. Santi is a physicist and Emi a translator. He speaks 10 languages. We still speak Spanish with each other, but switched to English for the interview.
I've always liked. I get obsessed with like other countries and other
Faut y
languages.
aller, c'est rouge.
I think in a way, it's like I want to belong.
Ah, c'est l'horreur, ces feux, c'est l'horreur.
It's also more interesting, I think, to kind of have like a mix of different backgrounds and stuff like that. And
But do you think that you'll ever feel like you belong somewhere?
I do think like I belong, but in. But
Je
it's
vais
not
remettre les
actually,
gaz.
it's like my life choices, like being a scientist and like.
Home can be something you create for yourself, but I guess I'm still trying to figure out what that means for me. For a long time, music was my identity,
Ok,
but now
je suis
it's
perdu.
veered into storytelling.
Welcome to Beatle News.
Our voices are so high!
20 years later, Valerie and I are still in touch. She still lives in Texas, where she directs
C'est
a
fou, je
choir
perds
and
du
sings
temps.
professionally now. I'm far away in Barcelona.
It's like funny because I don't remember specifically how much
Allez, je
English you
perds du
actually
temps.
spoke. All I just remember is
De toute façon, c'est toujours rouge, je suis obligé d'attendre.
But like, how much do you remember it being like the Beatles, like the thing that we had in common?
Oh no, that was a huge part of it because like that was like our thing.
You know, Valerie, I've never thought
C'est
of
pas la
this
peine de
way.
pousser trop fort.
But
That's towards the end of Beatle News. I was 12 by then, my accent completely gone. We were still trying to figure out who we were, our likes, our dislikes, our looks.
Quelle
we
misère.
have music, you know, back 100,000 million years ago, dinosaurs didn't have music and all they could do was walk around and eat plants. But now things either.
Allez.
We have pop, rock, rap, whatever you can think of. And
Fran,
bangs.
Fran, 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 Fran,
And
Fran,
thanks to the Beatles,
Fran.
people were bangs. Yeah, like me. I was trying to make my point.
During that time, the Beatles gave me a home, a way to connect.
Bon, il n'y a plus qu'à
Or
attendre
at
que
the
ça
very
passe vert.
least, the Beatles gave us bangs. For the world, Lucia Benavides, Barcelona.
On peut y aller. Je suis censé arriver à... Je suis censé arriver à 51. Allez, mais les gaz, bon Dieu. J'ai 1 minute 30 pour arriver à peu près. Faut que je fasse gaffe à tous les feux, quoi. J'ai mis le frein d'urgence, j'aurais pas mis. Mais c'est pas grave. On va être limité à 60. Alors, du coup, je vais monter jusqu'à 60.
I'm
62.
Marco Werman, you're with the world. After more than a decade of being a wanted man, Sudan's former president may finally face his day in court. Omar al-Bashir was overthrown last year, and now the new government in Sudan says it will hand over Bashir to the International Criminal Court in The Hague. He stands accused of genocide and crimes against humanity.
On va
As many as
augmenter.
300,000 people were killed on his watch in the Darfur region of Sudan. A government militia known as a Janjaweed is blamed for many of those deaths. The BBC's Mohamed Hashim is one of the first journalists to travel freely around
59.
Darfur in a decade, and reports of the legacy of the Janjaweed still
Là, on
hangs
est
over
bon.
the region.
Il y a un feu devant. Il faut que je regarde si c'est rouge ou si je peux passer. Je regarde de loin, j'ai l'impression qu'il est orange.
The revolution was all over Sudan. Yet
Vous le
the
voyez
government
comment,
targeted
vous?
Darfuris. They used us as scapegoats to distract attention from the protests. They
C'est
called
du
us all
radia.
sorts of things, including terrorists.
J'ai l'impression
But the
que j'ai un
protesters stood up to
orange.
Bashir. They told him he was an arrogant racist and that everyone supported Darfur.
Bumban left the camp he
Ouais,
was
je suis
living
pas
in
sûr.
and came to Khartoum to take part in the uprising. But what about those left behind in Darfur?
Je crois que je peux
To
passer.
find out, I went to Niala, the capital of South Darfur and the country's second largest city.
Oui, c'est bon. Il est vert en haut. Merci, il est vert en haut. C'est cher à voir, hein.
It feels like a safe settlement. It feels like city which has its markets where people are getting on about their daily lives. We went to visit Kalma, the largest of Darfur's 175 camps.
C'est
Kalma is a
super
sprawling camp
chaud.
perched on the edges of the desert, surrounded by glades of baobab, and the solitary train track to nowhere runs past the camp. Nearly 2 million Darfuris were
Mais
forced
bon.
to flee their homes during the war, and they have lived in camps like Kalma ever since.
Tout va
People
bien.
like Ilyas, a volunteer teacher by day and a barber in the afternoon. Ilyas was 19 when he came to Kalma in 2004. He wore the scars of war on his face.
One of the Janjaweed fighters saw that I was from a different area. He called me a slave, and another soldier
Gaz.
pushed me, and I fell face first into the fire.
For people like Ni'mat, an IDP who is trained as a
On
midwife,
arrive dans 6
things have
miles.
changed.
À Fort Lauderdale.
The situation is not improving. Things
On a
improve
toujours de
when
l'avance
most
sur
people
le...
here have no work. People here mostly work on other people's farms on day-by-day basis. Whatever you make, that is your children's sustenance. They said the new government will make things better.
On a de l'avance pour l'instant, c'est bien.
We're about to go and introduce ourselves to the local sheikhs who oversee this camp. Assalamu alaikum. The sheikhs were adamant they will not go back to their homes until conditions improved. So Sheikh Ishaq just made the demands.
Je m'attendais à ce qu'il pleuve à nouveau encore, mais non, ça va, ça se calme.
Former President Bashir to the ICC and his cohorts. He is calling for the disarmament of all the Janjaweed forces. He wants resettlement in the villages where they were displaced from. And he says all the foreign settlers who have made them prisoners in their own land have to return to their countries. Back in Niala, any visitor to the cities in Darfur can see the Rapid Support Force soldiers. The rebranded Janjaweed, some of them have served in Yemen or were heading there.
Feu.
They bring in money. This is evident
Je
in
le
the
vois
urban
pas.
sprawl of cities like Niala and
J'aurais
Al-Fasher,
tendance à mettre un peu
where the
de
markets are
freinage.
booming and vehicles smuggled from Libya fill up the dusty lanes. When I ask people about how they see them, many avoided answering
Parce que
directly.
je sais pas s'il est bon ou
But the
pas.
recent spat of ethnic violence in Western Darfur
S'il est
shows
bon.
how volatile the region still remains. If the revolution to oust Bashir is to mean anything, people here tell me the crimes perpetrated in Darfur must not go unpunished.
The BBC's Mohamed Hashim there reporting from Darfur.
Ils ont réussi à me faire de la place apparemment, parce que là je passe tout droit. Mais j'ai préféré mettre les freins avant que de mettre les freins au dernier moment.
A pile of old mattresses isn't exactly the image of prosperity, unless you look at them in a radically new way, says Professor Tony Ryan with the University of Sheffield in England.
The first time we came, it was all about how can we deal with all this stuff? What can we turn it into?
The stuff he's talking about is a pile of 10,000 old foam mattresses at Zaatari, a Syrian refugee camp in Jordan. Ryan traveled there on a sustainability mission.
Là on est bon. On est reparti, encore 3 miles.
We'll be able to turn these beds into green beds and everyone can have their own garden.
Everyone can have their own garden. Ryan is helping people grow food by using old foam mattresses in place of soil. Because at the refugee camp, a normal garden with soil is not really an option. 80,000 people live there, and there isn't room for each family to have their own plot of land. And the desert soil is too poor to cultivate
Les
anything.
nuages sont
So
bizarres.
bring in the mattresses.
Growing things in a tub with polyurethane foam, the foam just holds the plant upright. All the other functions of the soil come from the nutrients in the water.
On remet un
And
peu
the
de
foam
gaz.
allows the roots to do their thing.
Ryan adds that this unconventional method uses just 20% of the water that it would take to grow something in the ground because the water
Bon, je sais pas si vous avez eu l'occasion de voir Discord ou Twitter ou quoi que ce soit d'autre. D'ailleurs, le forum, même si j'en ai parlé, je fais un beau giveaway de bateau premium samedi soir. À l'occasion de la grande soirée du neuneu, il n'y aura pas de délai. Donc, faut venir.
The Zaatari refugee camp now has an area the size of a tennis court covered
Soyez
in nested
présents
gardens, but Professor
au
Ryan said
choix.
the mattress method could solve problems far beyond this refugee
Limité à
camp, as
45
cities
avec un
everywhere
feu.
face food threats from a hotter, drier climate.
We could all end up living like this, you know, as climate change plays out. Who knows what's going to
Je vais
happen?
peut-être l'ouvrir un peu au dernier
Well,
moment.
for one thing, it'll keep a bunch of foam mattresses out of the landfills. Smart with so many benefits. Check out the mattress gardens for yourself on our Instagram. We are at
C'est bon, il est vert.
And that's going to do it for us today from the Nan and Bill Harris studio at WGBH here in Boston. I'm Marco Werman. We'll be back with you tomorrow.
On peut arriver à falloir de la gel.
The world is supported in part by PRI 2020 donors, including Catherine Harris and Tom Kaiser, Cecilia and Garrett Boone, and the Tagney Jones Family Fund. By Marguerite Steed Hoffman, who values journalism and storytelling that reach across our divides.
Pas que je pousse trop, parce que 45, ça va vite être là.
The WGBH Fund for Environmental Reporting, whose donors include the Grantham Foundation for the Protection of the Environment, supporting a cooperative approach to solving our critical environmental problems while we still can. And by the Candida Fund, furthering the values that contribute to a healthy planet. The World's theme music is composed by Ned Porter. The World is a co-production of WGBH Boston, the BBC World Service, and PRX.
PRX.
Voilà, pile poil bien, on est dans le target. On va arriver à Fort Lauderdale. Plus de radio.
You're listening to 91.3 WLRN HD1 Miami Fort Lauderdale, 91.5 WKWM HD1 Marathon Key West, 90.7 WFLV HD4 West Palm Beach.
Pile poil, Fort Lauderdale, on y est, on y arrive.
The time is 4 o'clock.
Et comment ça, il est 4 heures? Il est 4 heures. Il est 4 heures. Allez, on freine.
I want to thank the Justice Department for seeing this horrible thing, and I didn't speak to him, by the way, just so you understand.
President Trump says he did not force the Department of Justice to cut the prison sentence for Roger Stone.
Today is Wednesday, February 12th.
Allez, tout le monde descend.
From NPR News.
I'm Audie Cornish.
And I'm Mary Louise Kelly. This hour, avalanches have shut down major highways and ski resorts in Salt Lake City, so specialized teams are using explosives to detonate slides to protect recreational skiers.
Pour l'instant, on est à l'heure. C'est très bien.
Of avalanches within the ski area, and that's just not the case.
And the companies that train alert dogs for patients with diabetes are being accused of making misleading claims.
I felt sorry that Rocky was chosen to do a job he wasn't equipped to do. That's not fair to the animal. Neither is it fair to me.
No news.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump is going to bat for his good friend and advisor Roger Stone, but he's declining to say if he will pardon his confidant. At the White House earlier today, Trump again blasted federal prosecutors for recommending Stone be sent to prison for up to 9 years for witness tampering, lying to Congress, and obstruction over his role
Oh
as
là
an
là, mais ils mettent tout le temps autant de temps à Fort Lauderdale pour descendre.
Trump says Stone didn't do anything to deserve that much time.
He was treated very badly. 9 years recommended by 4 people that perhaps they were Mueller people. I don't know who they were, prosecutors. And they, I don't know what happened. They all hit the road pretty quickly.
The 4 have resigned after the Department of Justice took the highly unusual step of overruling their
Ah, j'ai
recommended
pas essayé d'appuyer sur le bouton charger décharger. J'aurais peut-être dû.
Attorney General William Barr for, quote, taking charge.
When it comes to prosecutorial decisions, presidents and attorneys general have traditionally tried to avoid even the perception of political interference. President Trump has shown no such concern. White House spokesman Hogan Gidley insists there is nothing wrong with Trump complaining on Twitter about the sentencing recommendation for Roger Stone, and then congratulating the Attorney General when the recommendation was reduced.
Just because someone happens to be wrapped up in a 2.5-year investigation that cost the taxpayers $40 million doesn't mean the president doesn't have the right to comment on whether he knows them or not.
As for whether the president would pardon Stone, Gidley said there's no announcement on that front. Tamara Keith, NPR News, the White House.
Fuming over Barr's decision to intervene and the prompt departure of the prosecutors involved, some congressional Democrats are now calling for an investigation. The World Health Organization says a number of cases of the new coronavirus in China appears to have stabilized over the past week, but NPR's Jason Beaubien reports a health body says the outbreak
L'ombre du bonhomme à gauche.
in any direction.
Ah merde, il repleut. Il faudrait te mettre un parapluie, monsieur.
Mike Ryan, head of the WHO's Health Emergencies Program, says there have been some promising signs recently that the virus isn't
J'avoue que
spreading
des
as
fois,
aggressively outside of Hubei
les
province,
ombres, c'est pas ça,
but he
quoi.
adds that this remains a major health crisis and that any
Salut,
declarations that the outbreak has peaked are premature.
But I think it's way too early
0x.
to try and predict the beginning, the middle, or the end of this
Je
epidemic
baisse le
right
power,
now.
43. C'est bon, les feux sont verts.
For the virus, clearer guidance on the best way to treat patients who are sick. Jason Bobian, NPR News.
On va aller plus loin,
The Dow closed
45.
up nearly 1% or 275 points to end the day at 29,551.
Bye.
This is NPR.
From the WLRN newsroom, I'm Luis Hernandez. A South Florida jury acquitted
J'aimais
a
bien
Chinese
comme
woman
musée
trespassing at the
beau.
President's Mar-a-Lago resort. Jing Liu testified that she didn't understand the security guard who told her to leave. She had been in custody since her arrest in December because her visa to stay in the U.S. had expired. The jury did find her guilty of resisting a police officer without violence during the arrest. She faces up to 1 year in jail for that charge. Sentencing is set for Friday.
Allez,
Florida House lawmakers are
60.
considering a bill that would merge several state universities. Reporter Mark Schreiner has more.
Under Brevard County Republican Randy Fine's plan,
Presque
Florida
60.
Polytechnic University in Lakeland would become part of the University of Florida, while New College of Florida in Sarasota would join Florida State University. The schools would also lose their independent accreditation. Proponents of the bill say reducing the number of state universities to 10 saves money. Senator Joe Cruders of Sarasota, head of the state
Il est
Republican
pas si
Party,
fini que ça,
told the
ce...
Sarasota Herald Tribune he's 100% against the bill. New College President Donald O'Shea also criticized the idea,
Cet orage.
saying the bill appears to have been drafted without the knowledge of the affected schools. Officials at Florida Polytechnic, which split from the University of South Florida system in 2012, also released a statement opposing the
Ok,
bill.
c'est vert.
I'm Mark Schreiner in Tampa.
And this is WLRN News. I'm Luis Hernandez.
It's monitoring the air quality in the area. The refinery is said to be the 5th largest in this country. I'm Lakshmi Singh, NPR News in Washington.
Attention à la descente.
Support for NPR comes from Staples, with printers, printer ink, and toner cartridges for home and business, and in-store
C'est vert, on peut y aller.
for customized presentations, booklets, and manuals. More at Staples stores. Staples, and listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
Encore un feu droit devant. Ah ouais, vaut mieux la nuit. On voit plus clair si on met les phares.
It's All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Audie Cornish.
And I'm Mary Louise Kelly. Quote, "This is not what you signed up for. The 4 prosecutors who bailed on the Stone case have shown the way." That message, in the form of a tweet, comes from former Department of
Descend
Justice
sur Hollywood.
Inspector General Michael Bromwich, and it is directed at DOJ employees. The 4 prosecutors, Bromwich
On est
refers
toujours en
to,
avance
are the
sur le
4
terrain, sur le,
prosecutors who
sur
oversaw
le.
the Roger Stone case.
They all withdrew from Stone's case yesterday after the Justice Department overruled
Sévère.
their sentencing recommendation
Je
in
regarde bien.
favor of a more lenient one. Stone, a longtime friend and confidant of President Trump, was convicted on charges that came out of Robert Mueller's
Ouais, on est vert, on est vert.
investigation into Russian election interference in 2016. Michael Bromwich joins me now to talk more. Welcome to the program.
Ils sont tous débrouillés pour nous faire passer.
You've said in a tweet also that DOJ employees should report all instances of improper political influence and other misdeeds
Encore un feu.
to the Justice Department's Inspector General, who's required to protect your identity. What do you think should be reported in this case?
Well, I think the Inspector General knows enough about this case to launch an investigation into what happened, who was behind it, how it came to pass, and everything that alarmed so many people who have spent years in the Department of Justice upholding its traditions and upholding its independence. I think a number of people that I communicated with yesterday and whose posts I saw on various social media outlets were shocked and appalled about
Ah, il se remet à pleuvoir sévère.
intervention and
Feu.
the upending of
J'arrive pas à voir s'il est vert ou pas. S'il est vert.
We should note that you're representing fired FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, who was accused of lying about a leak, and also Brett Kavanaugh, accuser Christine Blasey Ford. I want to.
Les effets de gouttes sont très bien faits, je trouve.
The response from the White House, because this
Ah,
is
c'est
what
vert, c'est
President
vert.
Trump had to say about these accusations today.
I want to thank the Justice Department for seeing this horrible thing, and I didn't speak to him, by the way, just so you understand. They saw the horribleness of a 9-year sentence for doing nothing. You have murderers and drug addicts, they don't get 9 years.
Do you have a response to that?
Well, he doesn't have to be in direct communication with the Department of Justice, the Attorney General, or anybody else. He broadcasts his view for
On va être limité à 45 bientôt. Heureusement que j'ai des phares, on voit rien.
And he obviously knows nothing about the sentencing guidelines or the fact that a 9-year recommendation was within the guidelines range for these kinds of offenses. He told everybody that he thought it
On
was
voit rien.
connected to the Mueller investigation, which he publicly and many times has said he believes to be a total hoax.
Nuit noire, presque.
I want to jump in here because the president also added that he could weigh in on a sentencing if he wanted to. Are there any laws that govern what the president can and can't do when it comes to the Justice Department?
There are no laws that prohibit him from doing what he's doing, but every president during my
On va être limité à
lifetime,
45 si très peu.
going back before I was born, has known that intervening in
Ah,
a
les gars à la nuit, c'est bon.
investigation or a criminal prosecution, including the sentencing, is inappropriate. And there have been
Non, c'est pas. Ce sera peut-être bon pour les prochaines fois, ouais.
several decades at least that dramatically limit communication
freine.
between anybody in the White House, much less the president.
Par contre, les effets de gouttes sont très bien, je trouve.
Precisely to avoid the political
Les effets de gouttes sont vraiment top.
cases and to impair the independence of the Justice Department. The president is head of the executive branch, that's undeniable, but nevertheless people have realized over time that for our criminal justice system to be respected at home and abroad, we have to insulate the Department of Justice from blatant, naked political.
On va arriver super, pile poil bien.
In our final moments here, isn't sentencing ultimately up to
45,
the judge
c'est
in
bon.
this case? I mean, does it matter what the Justice Department recommends?
Well, it does generally matter what the Justice Department recommends. You're quite right.
Attends, c'est quoi la différence avec ma lumière et pas lumière?
In terms of what the sentence is, but judges rely
Ouais.
on the recommendations of the Justice Department.
Ouais, c'est
And
pas
right
génial.
now, if I'm Judge Amy Berman Jackson, I'm completely and thoroughly confused because I've got two separate sentencing recommendations. One from the people who handled the case in front of her,
Ouais, on va arriver à Hollywood.
and one from a superior who signed a document advocating lesser
Ah ouais,
sentences
si, c'est pas
after
mal
the
quand
four
même.
of them had
J'ai vu des
decided
trucs
to
de.
go off the case.
J'ai vu des trucs de gouttes qui étaient sur d'autres jeux qui étaient beaucoup moins bien faits.
It's definitely within her power. Absolutely. If I were she, I would want to
Je regarde
bring them
pour
all
vous
in,
freiner.
including up to the Attorney General, and say, this has never happened to me in my years on the bench or in my years as a practicing lawyer. I need to know what in the world went on here so that I can process it and figure out what impact that should have.
Allez, freine.
That's Michael Bromwich. He was an Inspector General overseeing the Department of Justice during the Clinton administration. Thank you for your
Excellent.
time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
To another story now. It's been a chaotic couple of weeks in the Rocky Mountains, where large avalanches have closed
Allez,
highways and
ouverture des
ski resorts.
portes.
A single storm near Salt Lake City triggered a record 48 slides. As NPR's Kirk Sigler reports, the increased avalanche risk comes at a time when more
On
and
a
more
toujours
people
une ligne
are hitting
d'avance.
the slopes in the high country.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah, that's probably solid. Do it!
Craggy Teton Mountains of northwest Wyoming, steep and deep Jackson Hole is a magnet for extreme skiers.
Alright. No, it's you got it. Oh!
Their buddies goading them on, Matt Beauregard and Rick Lawler drop a 15-foot cliff in this glade area called the Tower 3 Chutes.
Today's just kind of a mellow day, honestly. We're just ripping around inbounds.
Skiing in bounds inside the patrolled boundaries of a ski resort is generally thought to be safer when it comes to avalanches. That's because all season skiers have been packing this snow.
Mais il n'y a pas de correspondance.
But Matt Beauregard knows
Pourquoi vous
that's no
mettez
guarantee.
autant de temps?
We've actually triggered small slides on this exact face.
They may duck a rope and ski out of bounds into the backcountry.
J'avoue que je me spécialise sur Miami pour l'instant, puis après je vais bien voir.
Yeah, education is probably the most
Mais je vais faire tous les trucs les plus compliqués là.
wearing an airbag for added protection, so in the case that he is stuck inside an avalanche, he'll be able to pull his cord and hopefully float to the surface.
Inbounds or in the backcountry, avalanche danger is high across the Mountain West. We had an unusually snowy
On met pas les gaz trop fort pour pas patiner.
high power storms, then a punch of heavy wet snow. Last weekend in Utah, a 2-day storm dumped 6.5 feet in Little Cottonwood Canyon over the Snowbird and Alta resorts.
Ah, ça se calme. J'ai l'impression qu'il pleut un peu moins.
Is a forecaster at the Utah Avalanche Center. She recorded wind speeds up to 100 miles an hour on ridgetops. That further destabilized the already volatile snowpack in the Wasatch Mountains.
And then you put a big strong heavy load or a wind load on top
L'année
of that.
prochaine,
Kind of upside down. It's like a pyramid when you take out
aéroport de Miami.
remove one of the pieces.
There were no fatalities
Ah, de la neige. Bon, on est à Miami quand même. Hein.
avalanches within patrolled terrain at resorts in California and Idaho. All of this is putting the round-the-clock work of people tasked.
Faut toujours que je fasse gaffe au feu parce qu'on a toujours un système de retard là.
Jackson Hole Ski Patrol Director Drew Nealand is stepping into his bindings.
You know, above you can't see it in the fog now, but there's a big
Je suis censé
circle above
arriver
us here,
pile
and
poil à
that's
l'heure.
Casper Bowl, and all that terrain is avalanche terrain.
Every morning at dawn, before the tram and the gondolas start spinning, an army of Nealand's patrol are detonating explosives to intentionally trigger slides now so skiers don't later. And some of
De toute
these
façon,
can even be detonated
les
remotely
vitesses vont
thanks
pas
to
être
new
folles là à mon
robot-like
avis. Hein.
trolleys that reach even more dangerous remote places.
Ah ça va, il y a une partie à 79, c'est cool.
Coming down into the heavily congested areas, and so that's one of our biggest concerns is to get that work done early.
Another big concern is simply that more people are venturing out further into areas they
Bon, on va
normally
laisser
wouldn't,
l'essuie-glace parce qu'il y a quand même quelques
I
gouttes.
think people assume that we're able, that we have the ability to completely eliminate the risk of avalanches within the ski area, and that's just not the
Oh
case.
non, pas de neige en Floride, ou alors c'est la fin des temps.
The increased risk comes a new cachet. It's becoming cool to say you've taken avalanche courses and are as prepared as you can be. Kirk Ziegler, NPR News, Jackson, Wyoming.
Hardcore dog-loving listeners already saw the results on Fox Sports, but in case you missed it, last night the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show crowned a champion.
The best in the show goes to Standard Poodle.
Yes! Siba takes it all!
Siba, the standard poodle, looks, well, pretty much how you'd expect a show poodle to look. Her black fur is carefully groomed into a fluffy top knot on her head, and her chest, legs,
Ah oui,
and
ça
tail
bouge de l'autre
feature
côté aussi.
perfectly shaved tufts of hair called pompons.
Siba looks like she stepped out of an 18th century French aristocrat's sitting room. That poodle style is unmistakable.
Allez, on va essayer d'éviter, on va réaccélérer. Dans 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And the little drummerette things you were saying on that?
Right, those act as flippers.
No, poodle pompons are not used as flippers, but the mockumentary Best in Show did get it half right.
To keep its internal organs as well as its joints warm.
Le feu est comment?
Kennel Club says poodles were bred to be great retrievers.
Le
Their
feu est
curly coats
vert.
are shorn down to pompons.
Je vais sauvegarder quand même.
Look so very fancy, but because it made them
Juste
faster,
au cas où. C'est trop con de se prendre un feu maintenant.
Oh, it's a really prissy dog. It doesn't like to get dirty. It's actually quite the contrary. It's actually a very versatile dog, and it's been used as everything from a herder to a retriever.
Sachant qu'un feu c'est game over quoi. Si je passe un feu rouge, c'est game over. Le scénario s'arrête tout de suite et je peux pas faire autrement que de recommencer tout quoi.
I don't think she wouldn't. It's clearly in her blood and her hair.
You're listening to All Things Considered from NPR News.
Voilà, on peut pas aller plus vite. Top vitesse, 79. C'est pas une ligne très rapide. Je sais pas à combien il va maximum le P4. Je pense qu'il veut pousser bien plus que ça. Alors des feux, c'est vert. Faut avoir des sacrés yeux quand même. J'aurais pas envie de freiner au dernier moment. C'est toujours vert.
Support for NPR
C'est vert.
this station, and from T. Rowe Price, offering a strategic investing approach that examines investment opportunities firsthand. Institutions, advisors, employers, and individuals choose T. Rowe Price. T. Rowe Price, invest with confidence. And from C3.ai. C3.ai's software enables organizations to use artificial intelligence at enterprise scale, solving previously unsolvable business problems. Learn more at c3.ai.
It's All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm
J'arrive
on
avec 40 secondes d'avance.
Diabetic alert dogs are trained to sniff out life-threatening changes in blood sugar for people with type 1 diabetes. But their image as smart and capable lifesavers may be widely overstated. Some companies that sell the dogs are increasingly coming under fire from unhappy clients. NPR's Robert Benincasa has the story.
Des chiens qui détectent le diabète.
It's Sunday morning at Bethany United Methodist Church in West Jefferson, North Carolina. A few minutes before services, the handbell choir warms up and an acolyte lights candles.
Look who's here.
Church member Peggy Lynn Gibson walks in with her dog Rocky, a stout golden retriever. Her fellow congregants know Rocky because they came together to bring him here, holding a chilly lunch at a silent auction to raise funds. Local musicians even held a benefit concert.
Who is that? How are you?
Sweetheart. Gibson is one of more than 1 million Americans with type 1 diabetes, a difficult-to-manage autoimmune disease. Those who have it face a constant struggle to control the amount of sugar in their bloodstreams. If it gets too low, it can lead to seizures, loss of consciousness, or death. Rocky, an honorary
On va
member
être
of the
limité à
church, was
45.
trained as a diabetic alert dog. Diabetics hope dogs like him will smell dangerous
Commence
changes
à mettre
in
du
blood
frein.
sugar and let them know before the problem becomes serious.
Are we talking about you, Rocky? Huh? I'm always talking about you, aren't I?
Gibson is 67 and a retired nurse.
Je mets plus de
Back
frein.
home, just outside West Jefferson's picture postcard downtown, she explains why she sought canine help.
In these senior years, it became harder to recognize whether my blood sugar was going too high or whether it was going too low. That was partly what prompted me to look into getting a
Salut
diabetic
Pascal.
service.
J'ai trop freiné, mais ça va.
The purchase price was
J'ai trop freiné, pas trop.
Gibson calls her community's response an outpouring of love. It was also hopeful. If you do some basic research on diabetic alert dogs, you'll find some very encouraging information, especially from television news stories.
This 3-pound ball of fur with butterfly ears is a lifesaver.
Well, I'm a big dog lover, and I'm just so amazed, so heartwarming.
So much a story of science, but also of love. It's an adorable dog.
Yeah.
That is amazing to
Amazing. Amazing.
It's
Thanks.
amazing that animals can do that.
But maybe it's not so amazing. The alert dog industry is largely unregulated, so trainers and dogs aren't required to perform to any particular standards. Several dog training companies have come under fire recently from
C'est bon,
consumers
c'est
who
vert.
bought diabetic alert dogs they say don't work. In Texas, a group of more than a dozen dog buyers sued a trainer for fraud and won a judgment for $800,000. In Virginia, the Attorney
Des
General
faux
sued a
chiens
dog
détecteurs de
vendor, saying it
diabète.
deceived consumers about the animal's abilities and cost. Gibson is among dozens of ex-clients of a Nevada company who've taken to social media to complain. Soon after Gibson got Rocky, it was clear to her
On
that he
arrive dans
wasn't
7
cut out to be
miles.
a service dog in public, especially in the windy high country of North Carolina.
The first day that I had him out on my own, the wind blew up. He got so scared that he couldn't run fast enough to try to hide. It was just pure fear.
That was right after she had to sign a series of disclaimers as a condition of getting the dog from a company called Diabetic Alert Dogs of America. One document said Rocky has a, quote, free will and wasn't guaranteed to alert to blood sugar
Aussi, il y a toujours
More
plus.
than that,
Il doit y
he
avoir,
wasn't guaranteed to, quote,
il doit y avoir
perform
plus
any
difficile.
reaction
Je
at
sais pas
any
de ligne
specific
dans,
time.
je sais pas de ligne en
That's a pretty
Amérique du
low
Sud.
expectation for $15,000. And maybe there's a
J'ai de
reason
la
for that.
ligne donc aux États-Unis, j'en ai en Allemagne
University of Virginia
et en
psychologist
Angleterre.
Dr. Frederick tracked the performance of 14 diabetic
Et
alert dogs in a
autrement, il y a
2017
moyen de
study.
trouver de la ligne en
Their
Chine.
owners believed the dogs would prove more accurate than their glucose monitor devices. That didn't happen.
Et après, je sais pas, faudrait chercher. Mais bon, de toute façon, je vais déjà faire avec
Of
l'existant.
14 in the study, only 3 dogs performed better than statistical chance. That's similar
Parce
to
que
what an Oregon researcher reported in 2016.
ça coûte
Dogs in
trop
that
cher,
study
quoi.
detected low
Ou
blood
alors,
sugar
faut
36%
attendre
of the
les
time,
soldes, quoi.
but also had false positives.
Je suis même pas sûr
Dr.
qu'ils
Frederick
soldent
says some dog
correctement les
owners
DLC.
overestimate their dog's abilities.
When you find a person who, believes very strongly in their dog, but in fact maybe the dog's right half the time.
So it's something like confirmation bias.
Exactly.
Her
C'est
research
vert, c'est
also
bon.
contradicted what some believe or hope is true, that the dogs can
On
be
va
a good
changer de voie,
safety
là.
net for those who worry about blood sugar dropping as they sleep. Some parents have turned to the dogs to safeguard their children
J'espère.
during the night.
The
J'espère que c'est bon.
accuracy just plummeted because dogs have to sleep too. Obviously, a dog cannot work 24/7.
2 studies that did find good performance by alert dogs were co-written by the dog suppliers, but authors of those studies tell NPR the arrangements did not bias their research. Edwin Peoples, who co-owns Diabetic Alert Dogs of America, that's the company Gibson got her dog from, says he has trained nearly 700 dogs, and more than 9 out of 10 of his clients are satisfied. And for dogs
limitation de
that
vitesse
don't
très
work
bête.
well, Peoples says he has a training guarantee.
They can bring that dog to my doorstep here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Our response will be, I will do my absolute best to try to fix it, and if I can't, you get a brand new dog.
But Jessica Moyer, an Ohio mom with type 1 diabetes, had a long-running dispute with Peoples and now helps run a Facebook page dedicated to complaints about his company. She says the replacement dog guarantee can mean little when there's a child involved.
The child bonds with the dog, and then they have to choose whether or not to send the dog back and start over again,
On arrive
looking
dans
for that
5.
life-saving alert. Or
C'est vrai que
if
juste
they
au niveau
just
de
let their
Miami,
child
t'es
go on
limité à
with
20,
life
quoi.
with this dog, regardless of the fact that it isn't working for them.
Moyer's dog, Hachi, cost
Voire
$11,000.
15.
He was supposed to paw her if her blood sugar was out of range.
If I got in his face and asked for the paw, sure, he would give me his paw. But there was never any link to the scent of my breath and whether my blood sugar was high or whether my blood sugar was low.
Moyer says she's heard from dozens of other clients. Some are happy, but some have struggled with dogs that are too aggressive or have other problems. And while researchers have found little evidence that dogs can reliably sniff out blood sugar changes, they have encountered a kind of paradox. People who get them tend to do better with their diabetes. Here's Gondar Frederick again.
They may just be more engaged with their diabetes. They may be checking their blood glucose much more often than they used to. The dog is sort of a pleasant reminder
J'ai un
of
léger,
diabetes.
légère perte de framerate.
And there's lime or lemon there.
Sitting at her kitchen table with Rocky underneath at her feet, Gibson acknowledges he has helped her feel less alone with her disease. But, she says,
I felt sorry that Rocky, as an animal, was chosen to do a job he wasn't equipped to do. That's not fair to the animal. Neither is it fair to me, the recipient of a $15,000 specially trained dog that isn't capable of doing his job.
$15,000 le chien.
Plans to try to retrain Rocky herself.
Putain, il a
And
intérêt à
despite his
marcher le
trainer's
chien.
guarantee, she has no intention of sending him back. Robert Benincasa, NPR News.
This is NPR News.
C'est une vraie radio, ouais. C'est WLRN, comme dans le titre. C'est une radio qui tourne, qui fait des news, un peu de musique. Elle est vers Fort Lauderdale, Miami, les Keys. Elle est dans toute la Floride du Sud. C'est vert. Et c'est pas une radio web, c'est une vraie radio. Elle a la particularité de ne pas avoir de pub. Elle est tout sponsorisée en fait. Comme elle est sponsorisée, du coup on entend, c'est pour ça qu'on entendait parler d'un logiciel de je sais pas quoi, c'est les sponsors.
It's All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Audie Cornish.
And I'm Mary Louise Kelly. Forget the smiley face. Some scientists say they would like to see a better, more accurate selection of emojis.
Are we getting any cool new marine critters, or are we just getting, our fourth bear or whatever?
And the texting symbols researchers get excited about.
After the news.
Ça fait voyager, ouais. Je trouve ça plus sympa de mettre une radio du coin que de mettre de la musique. J'arrive à suivre. Il parle des primaires démocrates qui arrivent au Nevada.
Whereas exit polls showed that primary voters in New Hampshire were more than 90% white,
C'est vrai, ils n'ont pas trop un accent trop pourri en Floride.
whites make up a minority of the population. Similar to Iowa, the February 22nd contest is a caucus and not a primary. But for the first time, Nevada is allowing early caucusing for 4 days next week in an effort to increase accessibility. The state was also originally planning to use the same company that Iowa used for key reporting technology. But Nevada Democrats said after last week's malfunctions, it severed ties with the company. Reports this week indicate that the party is turning to a more paper-based method.
Sur la vidéo d'hier, c'était une radio qui parlait beaucoup moins. C'était une web radio.
Dia Hadid reports Pakistan has been under international pressure to show it's cracking down on militants as well as their financial networks.
Là, je pense que ça devrait plus se passer parce que là, du coup, ça cause beaucoup plus. Donc, oh, ça y est, on va être limité à 20. J'arrête d'accélérer.
The sentencing comes just days before an international watchdog is to decide whether Pakistan's done enough to tackle militant financing to avoid international sanction.
NPR's Dia Hadid in Islamabad. Saeed has been under pressure, or rather house arrest in the past, but this is the first time he's been
d'accélérer. On va être limité à 20
Stocks finished
km/h.
higher on Wall Street following another batch of solid corporate earnings reports. Technology stocks
On a
led
toujours
Ron
40
Valley.
secondes d'avance.
Dow's up
Donc,
275 points, almost 1%. This
c'est
is
bon.
NPR.
From the WLRN newsroom, I'm Alexander Gonzalez. An appeals court ordered a new trial today for a former South Florida Uber driver who was convicted of sexual battery in Palm Beach County.
Et même en Floride, ils ont des Uber qui font des attouchements sexuels. Ils ont des pervers Uber, c'est fou.
Kitchings
20,
allegedly sexually
on
assaulted a
freine.
passenger in his car and in her home in Jupiter in 2017. He was sentenced to 22 years in prison. And a former Miami state attorney is pushing forward a bill in the Florida Senate that he hopes will curb youth violence. Jason Pizzo-sponsored Senate Bill 656 allows police to arrest a juvenile without a warrant if they find pictures of that youth online
Salut
with a
Mélagan.
firearm. Pizzo believes that oftentimes gang members post pics with guns before retaliating or to threaten someone. Mary Ellen Kloss, Tallahassee bureau chief for the Tampa Bay Times and Miami Herald, was on Sundial, and she says that there's a long way to go for the bill to get to the Senate floor, and the NRA has already said they are against it.
There are many Republican legislators especially who do not want to...
Ah, c'est la partie finale là, peu avant Miami. On arrive dans la mile, mais on va être limité à 15 km/h.
Yes, it is got a lot of Republicans, led by a Republican, and it passed unanimously.
The NRA feels the language of the bill doesn't protect youth or simply taking pictures of hunting trips.
Alors vous verrez, quand je serai sur une ligne allemande, je mettrai les radios allemandes.
This is WLRN News. I'm Alexander Gonzalez.
C'est toujours plus fun. C'est vrai que ce jeu sans musique, sans rien, c'est chiant. Alors radio, ouais, c'est bien. Alors, j'ai un feu vert, ce qui veut dire que je vais changer de voix. La voix du haut, c'est la voix où est-ce que je reste. Ok. Et la voix du bas veut dire que je vais changer de voix.
Support for NPR comes
Tu as
from
le
this
support.
station and from Fidelity Wealth Management, where advisors work with their clients to develop flexible investment strategies that can evolve as their needs change. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC.
Donc en fait, les feux comme ça
And from
m'indiquent la voix
Procter
que je peux
Gamble,
prendre.
maker of Metamucil, a fiber supplement containing psyllium, a plant-based
Mais
fiber
normalement,
for
comme
trapping
tout est
and
prévu,
removing waste in the
la voix je
digestive
la prends.
system. Designed to be taken every day. More at metamucil.com/2-week-challenge.
It's All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Audie
Je
Cornish.
passe sous le pont, tiens, ça me dit
The
rien.
number of new coronavirus cases reported in China seems to be slowing. Public health officials say it's
Non,
too
j'arrive
soon
à
to know what's
l'aéroport
going
là.
on. The most hopeful explanation is that the disease, now called COVID-19, is starting to ebb. That's the most hopeful, but there are other possible explanations, as NPR science correspondent Richard Harris is here to tell us. Hi, Richard.
Hello, Mary Louise.
So when we say it seems to be slowing, what do the numbers look like?
Well, in absolute numbers, they're still kind of grim. The number of cases now tops 45,000. 99% of them are in China, and there are more than 1,100 deaths also reported.
Ah là, tu vois, on a changé de voix.
But the good news is the toll doesn't seem to be mounting quite as quickly as it had been. And today, the World Health Organization gave a briefing about the situation.
T'as envie de
And one
foncer,
top
tu sais.
official, Dr. Mike Ryan, gave his interpretation of what's
Tu peux
going on.
pas.
The stabilization in cases in the last number of days is very reassuring. The behavior of the virus outside Wuhan Hubei doesn't appear at this point to be as aggressive or as accelerated. That gives us the opportunity for
Ça se
containment,
stabilise le
potential
coronavirus.
interruption of transmission of the virus.
Okay, but so Richard, what else, other than a real slowing of the epidemic, what else would explain this trend?
Well, we don't have a really clear idea about the time lag between when cases are arise
j'ai
and how
2
soon they're
minutes d'avance.
reported. So this could be, essentially a variation in how quickly paperwork moves through the Chinese healthcare system and then on to the WHO
Nous
in
voilà à
Switzerland.
l'aéroport.
It's also the case that China has been tweaking the definition of this disease, and that can certainly affect trends, but Ryan says it appears the Chinese are now using a broader definition of the disease.
That shift is actually likely to generate more confirmed cases, not less. This is not an attempt to ignore cases, it's an attempt to widen the net and include milder cases and all lab-confirmed cases regardless of the symptoms.
That said, the WHO hosted a 2-day meeting of technical experts to identify urgent priorities, and on that list was the need for better disease tracking, as well as a better understanding of exactly how this virus is transmitted. We still don't really know.
Yeah, okay, so there's that, there's better disease tracking, as you mentioned. What else is the WHO saying could help the situation.
Well, officials said that Chinese scientists who called into the meeting said what they really need is a faster test for the disease, one that they could run quickly in doctors' offices and clinics and so on.
Charger, décharger, ça marche.
Your doctor's office, right?
And à la SNCF, je serais viré pour être en avance. Je suis content d'arriver à être en avance. Donc 2 minutes d'avance. T'imagines ça? Un pilote de rêve à la SNCF.
There are already a number of those in the works, but they're at least a year away, so that's sort of a middle-range hope, if you will. Vaccines are not going to stop a new epidemic.
J'attends la fin de scénar, je pense que j'ai fait une médaille d'or. Pour être simplement présent.
The WHO has repeatedly come to China's defense. Why, and is it warranted?
Well, we clearly don't have the whole story about how China has reacted within its own borders, but we do know that unlike the SARS epidemic nearly 2 decades ago, China has been very helpful in controlling the global spread of the new coronavirus. WHO Director General Dr.
Ouf, heureux de voir que la tempête s'est calmée. Bon travail. Alors, oui, j'ai fait 977 sur 1000. J'ai simplement fait un petit excès de vitesse. Et autrement, à l'heure.
He said after
Cool.
the crisis is over, everyone can go back, identify the inevitable missteps, and then learn from them.
Donc si on reprend les scénarios miamien, les scénarios miamien, regardez, j'ai fait or. On va faire maintenant Rififi à Miami. Je conduis un Amtrak de Miami Central à West Palm. Il fait nuageux avec de la neige, on est en été. C'est bien ça, ça me plaît.
Could put other Democrats at risk. They're pinning their hopes on moderate candidates, a group already looking ahead to contests in South Carolina and Nevada, states with
Et je suis un expert.
NPR's Kelsey Snell reports from Capitol Hill.
Centrist Democrats in Washington woke up after the New Hampshire primary with a new sense of hope. Delaware Senator Chris Coons was among those who sees the primary results as a clear indication that Sanders and the progressive wing do not have a lock on the party.
C'est plus pas beau. Attention, Storm. Restez un tard, pas arrêter les arrêts. On te voit à Palm Beach.
People like Coons, who is one of Biden's top supporters, have a pretty standard list of reasons for being optimistic. Only 2 states have voted. They don't reflect the broader party, and
Donc je suis à Miami et je descends à Palm Beach.
Many Democrats worry that Sanders' talk of revolution is a turnoff for a lot of potential voters, and that's why they say Klobuchar had such a strong night in New Hampshire.
En plus,
She's demonstrated that she can accomplish things, and I think that's what people are interested in.
That's Tina Smith, Klobuchar's fellow senator from Minnesota. These centrist Democrats hope that voters
Alors, je suis censé arriver à quelle heure?
prove the energy
Parce
isn't
que là, tout
only
va
on
bien.
the left. That's why former
Tout
Congressional
est
Black
rouge.
Caucus Chairman Cedric Richmond flew to South Carolina on the night of the New Hampshire
Ok, on peut y
primary
aller.
to appear
Je
at a rally
suis
with
avoir
Biden.
des signaux rouges.
Richmond said he
Attention,
wanted to remind
red signal
Democrats
rouge
in that
à Hollywood.
critical state not to give up on Biden just because he fell behind in whiter states.
He's never abandoned the African American community, and he would hope that because of Iowa and New Hampshire, that they don't abandon him.
Ça change pas de ce que j'ai fait trop jusqu'à présent. C'est parti. Il faut bien faire gaffe au feu. Avec la pluie, c'est un peu embêtant. Je le finirai pas ce scénario-là, par contre.
Michigan Congresswoman Haley Stevens says Bloomberg is gaining
C'est
steam
15.
because he's investing in states like hers.
On va
Places that
recommencer
were
déjà.
critical in 2016, but were largely ignored by
C'est
Hillary
15.
Clinton.
What
15.
voters are afraid of in Michigan is losing
15.
against Donald Trump. So when you have a campaign operation, and that's what people are responding to.
One Democrat who knows a bit about how to win in
15.
a state where President Trump also won is Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin. She is not endorsing anyone because her state is hosting the party's convention, but she says she has some advice on how to win over battleground voters.
Certainly showing up matters.
But there is pressure for centrists to hurry up and unite behind one person for the good of the rest of the Democrats on the ticket. When asked about the effect a Sanders nomination would have on those races,
Je
Senator
vais faire
Coons
trop
simply
vite.
said, quote,
15.
negative. Sanders supporter Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal says that's wrong.
Le Miami Amtrak, il est lent ce chemin. Je préfère aller à l'aéroport parce que...
have to understand that this is a fighter and the American people want a fighter.
Asked this week about Sanders' impact on congressional races, Congresswoman Sherry Bustos, who runs the House Democrats' campaign arm, took a long and deliberate pause.
Allez, c'est parti.
We have discussions about the nominee,
15.
but you know, it runs the gamut.
Bustos also repeated what's becoming the new mantra for moderate Democrats. It's still early. Things may change. Kelsey Snell, NPR News, the Capitol.
Voilà, c'est vraiment slow. C'est super lent, 15. Bon, mais au moins c'est vert.
You're listening to All Things Considered from NPR News.
From the WLRN studios at the Miami Herald, I'm Christine DiMattei. A new spin on a much-loved ballet. A piece that showcases male dancers.
Salut papy.
And a tribute to Frank Sinatra set to dance.
Alors c'est où qu'on
That's
va?
what awaits ballet goers during the third performance of Miami City Ballet's 2020 season. The company's Program 3 will be performed throughout South Florida, beginning with the Arch Center this coming Friday. We recently visited the offices of Miami City Ballet to speak with artistic director Lourdes Lopez.
Lourdes, the opener of
Program 3 is Miami City Ballet's premiere of Rodeo, 4 dance
Je suis censé arriver dans 20 minutes. En ce moment, ouais, j'aime bien suivre les couloirs.
And he's choreographing the remake of West Side Story directed by Steven Spielberg.
Justin really took inspiration from Agnes de Mille's 1942 ballet Rodeo.
J'espère qu'on va pas être coincé trop longtemps à 15 parce que c'est juste l'enfer.
He's presenting that score really, I think, in a brand new, very modern, very American way. So instead of numerous women on stage, 16 strong virile men.
Je l'ai terminé, GTA 4. On verra bien sur GTA 5 ce que ça va donner.
Old Blue Eyes is back in the second ballet.
J'ai bien aimé l'aventure. C'était sympa. Alors, est-ce que c'est rouge? Non, c'est pas pour moi. Je sais, mais il faudra que je l'achète. Je l'ai pas. On va d'abord essayer de faire les jeux d'aventure et les jeux de rôle que je possède avant d'en acheter d'autres. Je sais pas ce que vous en pensez, mais ça me semble... Sauf si vous me l'offrez. Ah, si vous me l'offrez, c'est avec un grand plaisir que je les ferai. Mais c'est vrai que j'ai pas mal de jeux à faire avant.
And finally, Miami City Ballet's premiere of Firebird, music by Igor Stravinsky.
Pas
This
de
was a
petit...
collaboration between two giants of dance, George Balanchine and Jerome Robbins, the choreographer of the original West Side Story.
Ah, on va pouvoir enfin avancer un peu plus.
Any company outside of New York City Ballet is doing it. Why is that?
The original Firebird that Balanchine created for it back in 1949
Sèche-linge qui tombe en panne. Le projet naze un échange au bout de 2 mois. Par le sèche-linge qui rentre au moins cher et pas de la même marque. C'est moche. Et il n'y a pas eu de garantie. C'est très étonnant. Oula, ça se coule.
I asked both trusts, the Robbins Trust and the Balanchine Trust, and I said, what would it take for us to perform Firebird? And they said, well, you'd have to redesign the sets and costumes, and we no longer had the Marc Chagall sets to kind of guide us.
Si le garantie n'a pas venu au bout d'une semaine, bah oui. Et ils ont mis 2 mois.
we wanted to really add a modern feel to it, which is how do we get 3D into it? How do we actually create this visual so the audience feels
Wow, il y a un
that
gros
they're
train de
in
cailloux
it
juste à côté
as
de nous.
opposed to
Regardez-moi
just
ça, c'est
watching
fou.
it. So right
Il
now,
est
for
énorme, il est
example,
super long.
the entire stage will be filled with trees that look like they're real, but they're not. So
J'ai
they're
un
just
petit feu vert.
projected. And so it just adds, the projections add to the feel,
Ah,
they
c'est
add to
beau.
the story. All of a sudden, the fairy tale becomes alive, and it becomes a fairy tale. The narrative becomes a narrative of today.
That was Lourdes
Wow.
Lopez, artistic director of Miami City Ballet.
On
We
va
had
se
a
rentrer
chance to
dedans.
speak with her during the last few rehearsals for the company's Program 3. It will be performed at 3 locations across South Florida, beginning with the Adrian Arce Center in Miami-Dade this coming Friday, the Kravis Center in West Palm Beach next weekend, and the Broward Center for the Performing Arts the weekend after that. This is WLRN News. I'm Christine DiMattei.
On va le rattraper. On va le rattraper. Lui il va à 15, moi je vais un peu plus vite. Vu que je vais un peu plus vite, maintenant je vais le rattraper. Et je vais être limité à 20 dans pas longtemps. Je fais de l'extérieur. Je devrais pouvoir normalement le rattraper doucement. Je suis limité à 20, on accélère. Ah salut, je vais plus vite que toi. Ouais, je suis passé le panneau 20. Mais il faut que l'intégralité de mon corps ait passé le panneau 20. Ah, j'ai une limitation. Il faut pas que je sois la tête, il faut que j'ai l'intégralité de son regard. Pour voir ma vitesse, ici là. À côté de ça, t'as un rond gris là. Où est-ce que tu as indiqué ma vitesse actuelle, 20.1, et juste en dessous il y a un petit 20. Je dois pas être au-dessus de 21. Feu rouge. Je dois m'arrêter. Je dois m'arrêter. Et lui il passe. Oh les boules.
But as NPR's Sylvia Poggioli reports, Francis sidestepped the issue.
Oh, je le doublerai pas. Je le doublerai pas parce qu'il passe devant moi. Ah les poules. Au revoir. Ah non les poules. Non, fallait me laisser passer. Sincèrement, c'est n'importe quoi. Il est énorme ce train. Oh la spie. Dès que j'ai un feu vert. Il est énorme. Ça c'est un scénario que j'ai téléchargé. C'est déjà plus sympa. Ou pas, je sais pas. Il est en anglais en tout cas. Allez. Qui sortent du bloc, malheureusement. Bon, le feu là, les deux qui sont juste au-dessus de moi là. Il faut qu'il y en ait un qui passe orange pour que je puisse passer. Ça veut dire qu'il s'appuie dans le bloc. Ouais, des trains. Ils sont pas nombreux, mais ils sont très très longs. Ouais, il faut que l'intégralité passe le prochain feu.
As to the other Amazon bishop's request that women be ordained as deacons, Francis discouraged the idea, saying women should be allowed to serve
L'horreur,
in a way
allez,
that
mais
reflects
vas-y.
their
Heureusement qu'on a la radio.
Sylvia Poggioli, NPR News, Rome.
Now a story about emojis. You know, those tiny pictures you can add to your text or tweets.
Ouais,
It turns
rajouter
un
un emoji
inspire a
breton.
lot of complicated
Emoji drapeau
emotions
breton.
in scientists. NPR's Nell Greenfield-Boyce reports that some new emojis being released later this year have scientists feeling both thrilled and dismayed.
Que l'eau de verre.
Stacey Phillips works at the Open University in the United Kingdom. She's a geologist and she
Salut,
likes to use emojis.
Etienne.
I was aware of the mountain emoji, which is quite helpful for geologists, and there's a hammer and a pick that I use quite a lot.
Recently, she took a look at the list of
Il est
new
où, là?
emojis being rolled out
Je vais me
this
mettre
year
devant le
by the
feu.
group that controls such things, the Unicode Consortium. On the list, for the first time ever, was something geologists had longed for.
Je suis toujours sur Miami West Palm Beach.
But then I was like, but
Mais
wait,
là, cette
what
fois-ci,
type of rock is that?
To her, it looked like
il y a
a
du monde
cabbage.
sur la voie.
It was just kind of dark green, a little wrinkly.
Et,
I
vient de
guess
me passer
is what a
devant
rock
un
looks like to most people.
énorme
She and other
convoi
geologists
de
have been
cailloux.
pondering this.
One of the most popular suggestions that I got was it was a rock called
Un
serpentinite.
énorme
Or maybe
convoi de
it's a
cailloux.
rock covered in moss. Anyway, the rock will look different on
Et
every
j'attends que
device
ce
or
gros
platform.
train de
Companies
cailloux
create their own
passe,
renderings of each emoji, but at least
passe le
geologists
prochain
will
bloc.
finally have a symbol for the
Mais il a pas
iconic
envie.
object of their passion. The list of soon-to-be-released emojis also includes a
Sincèrement, je
fly.
pense aux gens
And
qui
that is
attendent.
good news for someone whose Twitter profile says he is, quote, waiting for a fly emoji. Richard Mizell is an evolutionary biologist at the University of Houston.
Et
His lab uses
pourquoi
fruit
c'est lui qui est
flies,
passé
one of
devant
the
moi,
most
quoi?
studied
C'est
species on the
dégueulasse.
planet. A couple years ago, he went looking for a fly emoji.
Like when you search
C'est
fly,
exactement ça. Tellement peu de passagers que les cailloux sont prioritaires.
He
T'imagines?
says in the grand scheme of things,
Ah,
the emotional blow
j'ai failli
was
attendre.
trivial, but nonetheless real.
I'm happy that there's a fly now. Now I have to change my
Allez,
Twitter
c'est
bio
parti.
to reflect that.
But in one informal poll,
Attention,
a
on est
lot
toujours
of
limité à
fly
20.
researchers said it looks like the new fly emoji won't be cute enough. Mark Pfeiffer is a biologist at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. He says the fly emojis he's seen look like big,
On va peut-être
ugly
limiter à
house
40.
flies, not science's treasured fruit flies.
We don't want our lovely Drosophila associated with those nasty houseflies. It's just not right.
Experts have taken issue
Gentiment en
with
termes de
emojis
vitesse.
before. Sometimes the images are scientifically inaccurate, like a squid emoji released a few years ago. A key part of its anatomy, the siphon used for jet propulsion, was in the wrong place, sitting between its
C'est
eyes
quoi
and
ce
looking
signe? À
disturbingly
combien je vais
like
être
a
limité
nose.
là?
And I saw the problem immediately, but I was honestly just
55,
so thrilled
45
to have
peut-être.
a squid
Non,
emoji at
45
all
c'est maintenant.
that I didn't complain.
Ouais, il y a le
Sarah
40,
McAnulty is a
45,
squid
j'arrive même pas à
biologist at the
40 que je
University
vais
of
te limiter à
Connecticut.
45.
She says the Monterey Bay Aquarium tweeted about this. It got picked up by the press.
40.
In the next rollout of emojis, it was fixed.
The squid siphon was no longer visible on the top of the squid. So that's a win for us.
A rare win for invertebrates,
Et on
given
va
that
pouvoir. Je
emojis
monte
are heavily
pas trop en
biased
puissance.
towards mammals.
C'est une P4.
Kyle David is a biologist at Auburn University who always checks the list of new emojis.
To see, are we getting any cool new marine critters, or are we just getting, our fourth bear or whatever?
He says big groups from
Diesel.
the Tree of Life are missing.
Nigeria is like a very large group. That's your jellyfish and your corals that I don't think we have anything for. Echinoderms, which are one of our closest invertebrate relative groups. That's your starfish and your sea urchins.
The entire kingdom of fungi is represented by one mushroom emoji. And then there is the emoji called micro.
Ça marche bien.
It's the only option to represent
Et puis
all
surtout que
microbes,
c'est le seul train que j'ai
archaea,
piloté jusqu'à
bacteria,
présent, donc je le
viruses,
maîtrise.
unless you want to go with a petri
Je le
dish.
maîtrise bien.
Kristen
Ça va là
Bernard is a
maintenant.
virologist at the
C'est
University
bon,
of
lui,
Wisconsin-Madison.
je
She
commence à le
says
maîtriser
people in her
sévère.
field had been waiting for a virus emoji.
I will say that we were all a little bit disappointed.
The microbe emoji has been described as a green splat. Bernard says virologists
Ils
use
font une
it,
émission
but
sur
that
les
doesn't mean
emojis.
they like it.
It just
L'emoji
doesn't really look like
virus.
any
c'est-
viruses any of us work on.
She wishes that there was an icosahedral one. Lots of viruses have this many-sided structure.
Most virologists, if we saw an icosahedral
Il y a des feux de vent, faut que je fasse gaffe. Que mon train.
She could propose an emoji like that. The Unicode Consortium takes suggestions from the public. Melissa Thermidor works for the group that oversees blood and organ
Alors, c'est
donations in the
orange
United
ou c'est
Kingdom.
rouge?
Her
C'est
proposal for
rouge.
an anatomical heart emoji just got approved,
Non.
as did her emoji for lungs. Also,
Bon bah,
a
tape le
worm
frein.
emoji. She pushed for that one because her 3-year-old daughter is always looking for wiggly worms.
It was just, I guess, a nice little homage to her, because she loves worms, and I thought, well, why not?
That means all worm
Ah, je peux
researchers
pas y
will
aller.
soon have an emoji of their own, and whatever complex feelings come with it. Nell Greenfield's voice, NPR News.
On va s'approcher quand même.
This is All Things Considered from NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from Progressive Insurance, offering a way to buy
On met
home
les gaz.
insurance with their Home Quote Explorer tool. Custom quotes and rates are available online. Learn more at
J'ai l'impression qu'il y a une loco qui est coincée en face aussi.
Progressive. Now that's progressive. From Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, developing ways to
Je
use
peux y
the
aller.
PD-L1 pathway in immunotherapy to treat cancer. Committed to making contributions in cancer treatment for 72 years.
Je suis en retard là, pas beaucoup, mais je suis en retard. Il va falloir que je mette un peu les gaz.
And from Zoom. Zoom turns a conference room into a Zoom room. Video and audio conferencing, wireless content sharing, and one tap to start a meeting. Zoom has more online at zoom.com.
C'est Miami, West Palm Beach. Il est reposant ce jeu. Alors, on va être là. Ah, c'est bon, on va pouvoir accélérer un peu. Toi, t'es ligne suisse. Ah, ça doit être sportif, la ligne suisse. Moi, je t'avouerai que je pense que je vais faire... J'ai récupéré le Humble Bundle pour 5 €. 5 €. Donc, je suis content, quoi. Les locaux, les lignes, à 5 €. C'est chouette. Donc, du coup, maintenant, je pense que je vais essayer d'attendre les soldes, des choses comme ça, pour récupérer des DLC, mais soldés, quoi. Oui, cette ligne, ouais. Il y avait un Humble Bundle. La loco, tout ce que j'ai récupéré, là, tout ça, c'est de l'Humble Bundle à 5 €. Et il y avait du 12 € aussi. Mais comme je savais pas si ça allait me plaire ou pas, je me suis dit, je vais mettre 5 €.
I'm here consulting with allies about it.
Also, a new report shows the Census Bureau is behind on recruiting 2020 census workers.
Plus, what happened after
Ouais, sans doute, ils vont peut-être pas mettre en Humble Bundle les nouvelles. Ils ont eu un nouveau joueur déjà, c'est déjà pas mal.
And an update on those bonsai trees stolen from a museum outside Seattle.
First, this news.
On était à 60. Je vais arrêter parce qu'il est 23 h. Ça va être l'heure pour moi de reprendre ma grande aventure. Je me mets à 60. Voilà, je sauvegarde. Et je coupe tout. Je fais quitter. Je vous laisse. Je vais. Ah bah, c'est très bien. Pour l'instant, ça me plaît bien. J'espère que ça va bien se passer avec la sauvegarde. Ah, c'est ça, c'est 30 €. Oui, non, mais là, c'était. Tu vois ce que c'est qu'Humble Bundle? C'est un package sur le site d'humblebundle.com. Je refais carrière. Je fais celui-là. Je fais reprendre. Et je regarde si ça marche bien. J'espère que ça a bien sauvegardé ce que je suis en train de faire. J'ai un peu peur avec le scénario téléchargé des fois.
On Tuesday, the party said early votes will be recorded on a paper ballot similar to a Scantron. Early voting ends next Tuesday, but
Ça
results
marche.
will not be available until caucus day. For NPR News, I'm Bree Zender in Reno.
The man accused of killing 22 people at an El
Bac
Paso
suisse à
Walmart
44 francs. Attendre les soldes, ouais. Attendre les soldes. Oui, je pense que je vais faire ça aussi pour m'acheter des nouvelles lignes. Je vous laisse, je reviens tout de suite avec... chut, je reviens tout de suite avec Plague Tale Innocence. À tout de suite les gens.